At certain branches of the Lexington Public Library, you could meet live sharks.
The Newport Aquarium's Wave Foundation presented Sharks in the Library. New at 6, WKYT's Ben Beddoes explains.
I'm here at one of Lexington's public libraries where the Wave Foundation at Newport Aquarium is spreading awareness about some of Earth's ocean critters. Today at the Lexington Library Marksbury Family Branch, many learned about the coral cat shark, which was brought into the library as a live display.
This program, the whole goal behind it is we can't expect people to care and want to contribute to the well-being of these animals and our oceans if they haven't been able to interact with them at all. So it's just spreading awareness so that people care a little bit more.
The Wave Foundation travels to various locations within a certain distance of the aquarium in northern Kentucky to talk about these creatures.
The whole point is to keep it reasonable, of course, like a reasonable distance from Newport Aquarium for the animal safety, but we still want to reach as many people as possible as well.
Of course, with any kind of creature like a shark, there are some accommodations that need to be made so that they can travel safely.
We have coolers like this, so it's not anything fancier than like a cooler that you would find anywhere else. We just make sure that it's filled with salt water. It has a bubbler in there because they still breathe oxygen just like we do. They only extract it from the water with their gills. So we are making sure that they're pumped full of oxygen. And then we bring enough extra water with us that we can fill up the display tank.
From Lexington, I'm Ben Beddoes, WKYT.
Well, the Wave Foundation will be at both the north side and east side branches of the Lexington Library on Friday as well. Tickets are first come, first serve at the door.